Genghis Khan's daughter, Alai Beki, tore the tent curtain aside with a single violent motion. The same fire burned in her eyes, a fire that lived only in the blood of Genghis Khan. Tului. Her voice was heavy, but there was no mercy in it, only poison. I want that city where even breathing is rebellion. Tului Khan raised his gaze. We will burn Nishapur. No one will survive. Alai Beki stepped forward abruptly. Her fist clenched, her voice rose. No, Tului. This was not an order, it was a scream. To die while alive is easy. I fear the men who lie among corpses and hold their breath. She pointed toward the Mongol army. In that city, no corpse must remain safe. Whoever walks must die, and whoever has fallen, his head must also be severed. Tului Khan fell silent. He understood now. This was not merely war. This was vengeance. Moments later, the command was issued. In Nishapur, beheading was made compulsory so that no one could survive by hiding among the dead. And then, Genghis Khan's daughter, Alai Beki, descended herself into the massacre with 10,000 soldiers, where swords were not cutting bodies, but erasing generations. The magnificent Khwarezmian Empire was not merely an expanse of land, it was a state built upon layered defenses. It had three formidable lines of protection. The first line, the cities settled along the banks of the river Sir Darya, linked together like a chain. The second line, the densely populated and wealthy cities of Transoxiana along the river Amu, Samarkand, Bukhara, cities regarded as symbols of knowledge, wealth, and power. But even within the lifetime of Al-Din Muhammad Khwarezm Shah, the Mongol storm had reduced both of these defenses to walls of sand. Now remained the third and final defensive ring, the heavily fortified cities west and south of the Amu River, guarded by Iranian and Afghan warrior tribes who knew the sword and knew how to face death eye to eye. At that time, Genghis Khan was stationed in Samarkand. From there, he decided that the empire would no longer be crushed at once, but torn apart from multiple directions. The army was divided into several columns, each ordered to advance by a different route. The Mongol force marching toward Khorasan was placed under the command of Genghis Khan's son-in-law, Qfchar Noyan. Its vanguard was led by a fierce and battle-hardened commander, Pil Gush. This unit crossed the Amu River and advanced toward Nasa. Nasa, a city whose ruler, Ikhtiar al-Din, had passed away, leaving governance in the hands of his cousin, Nasrat al-Din, Hamza bin Muhammad. Nasrat al-Din was not merely a ruler, he was among the chosen and tested loyalists of Sultan Jalal al-Din. He strengthened the city's fortifications, sealed the gates like iron, and openly declared that Nasa would not bow its head. As soon as the Mongol army surrounded the city, the people of Nasa responded not with silence, but with fierce resistance. Every assault was repelled. Every charge crashed against the walls and returned defeated. In a powerful counterattack, the Mongol commander Pil Gush himself was slain. For 13 days, the brave people of Nasa kept the Mongols away from the walls. But on the 14th day, destiny prevailed. Leaving corpses at every step, the Mongols somehow forced their way into the city. After such fierce resistance, they were driven mad with rage. The population was gathered in one place and ordered to bind one another together. Had the people scattered and fled toward the mountains, which lay very close, most could have survived, but fear shackled their feet. Once they were bound together, the Mongols began raining arrows upon them. Here, 70,000 people were martyred.
It was in Nasa that one of the greatest advisors of the Khwarezmian court, the renowned Islamic scholar Allama Shahabuddin Khiyufi, had taken refuge along with his son, Sheikh Taj al-Din. They were captured, their hands tied behind their backs, and presented before Qfchar Noyan. Several mounds of gold looted from the city were melted and poured over their bodies. Thus, these embodiments of knowledge and virtue were martyred through the most brutal torment, turned into a spectacle of cruelty.
Genghis Khan was not watching the movements of Sultan Jalal al-Din in silence. He was watching them with deep anxiety. Wherever the Sultan set foot, the atmosphere began to shift against the Mongols. Smoldering flames buried in people's hearts would ignite at the very mention of his name. And Genghis Khan did not believe in giving his enemy time to breathe. He dispatched Tului Khan with a massive army towards northern Iran and Khurasan, towards those cities from whose outskirts continuous reports were arriving of Sultan Jalal al-Din's movements. These were the very cities that Subutai and Qfchar Noyan had passed by without destroying. Now the objective was singular: to crush Sultan Jalal al-Din's power and to reduce those cities completely to dust. At the same time, Genghis Khan immediately sent 10,000 seasoned troops under the command of his son-in-law, Qfchar Noyan, towards Nishapur. That same Nishapur, where Sultan Jalal al-Din had stayed for a month and poured the heat of freedom into the people's blood. Though the Sultan had departed from Nishapur, his supporters were still present in the city, and this alone made Genghis Khan sense an immediate danger. But even before Qfchar Noyan set out, the revolution had already been born in Khurasan, one whose very imagination made the Mongols tremble. Inspired by the Sultan's call for freedom, a group of brave fighters in Tus raised the banner of jihad. They beheaded the Mongol governor and sent the severed head to those notables of Nishapur who were allied with the Mongols. The warriors of Tus shamed the people of Nishapur, calling upon them not to bow their heads before the Mongols, but to lower their swords instead. Their call shook the Muslims of Nishapur awake. They too killed the Mongol officer appointed to oversee the city. This was the uprising that threw Genghis Khan into deep unrest. In this state of agitation, he immediately sent Qfchar Noyan towards Khurasan. Qfchar Noyan struck Nishapur before Tus. In Ramadan 617 AH, or November 1220 CE, the city was placed under siege and relentless, ferocious assaults began. But the people of Nishapur did not panic. They were ready to fight. They delivered such a crushing response that the Mongols were left reeling. On the third day, in a precise and powerful attack by the Mujahideen, Qfchar Noyan himself was struck down by arrows. The Mongol army retreated. The retreating force split into two columns and descended upon Tus and Sabzawar. After capturing Tus, a tale of repression was written that is difficult to contain in words. Mass slaughter without restraint, plunder of wealth and possessions, and in the search for hidden treasures and hoards, even graves were not spared. In Tus, the shrines of Ali ibn Musa al-Rida, peace be upon him, and Caliph Harun al-Rashid were demolished and excavated. At last, the city was set ablaze. Once thriving Tus was reduced to ashes. The fate of Sabzawar was no different. Here too, the number of martyrs is said to have reached nearly 70,000.
Qfchar Noyan was not merely Genghis Khan's son-in-law, he was his most capable and trusted general. When news of his death reached Genghis Khan, it ran through his body like fire. He immediately sent orders to Tului Khan, who was desperately roaming in search of Sultan Jalal al-Din. Turn toward Nishapur, put its entire population to death, and raze the city's walls and structures so completely that the land may be plowed and cultivated. Meanwhile, spring was at its peak. The surroundings of Nishapur were draped in green. Gardens and orchards were fragrant with blossoms. Into this season of life arrived Tului Khan, burning with the fire of vengeance, leading a massive army to the very walls of the city. With him were 3,000 giant crossbows, enormous bow launchers operated by several men together, whose range stretched to the far horizon. 200 catapults had been installed around the city. For stone bombardment, so many rocks were gathered several miles away that even by the end of the war, not a tenth of them was used. And to operate the incendiary devices, a special corps of 1,700 men stood fully prepared. On 12 Safar 618 AH, 7 April 1221 CE, that very day, Tului Khan unleashed his enraged beast-like army in a full-scale assault. For 2 days, the earth remained soaked with blood. Countless people on both sides fell dead, yet neither side was willing to step back. On the third day, as the sun began to sink, the Mongols launched an exceptionally fierce attack and succeeded in crossing the moat at several points. As they tried to scale the walls, Mongol bodies kept falling continuously to the ground below. The people of Nishapur, who had pledged to fight to their final breath, were still repelling the enemy again and again with desperate counterattacks. In the midst of this struggle, the sun set, but the battle for survival and annihilation did not end. When night fell, hundreds of Mongols who had been cut off near the walls took advantage of the darkness, slipped into the city, and after fierce fighting, managed to open the gates. By the morning of the fourth day, a large part of the Mongol army had entered the city. The people of Nishapur, indifferent now to life and death, fought hand to hand, but the attackers were more numerous than a swarm of locusts. One particular rule was strictly observed during this massacre. Every person was to be beheaded. Historians write that after the massacre of Merv, the Mongols discovered that many people had survived by pretending to be dead and hiding among corpses, later escaping toward other Islamic cities. For this reason, in Nishapur, beheading was deemed mandatory, so that no one could survive by lying among the dead. Genghis Khan's ferocious daughter, Qfchar's wife, personally took part in this massacre with 10,000 soldiers. She slaughtered hundreds of helpless victims with her own hands and cooled the fire of her vengeance. On the fourth day after the fall of Nishapur, by Genghis Khan's command, Tului Khan ordered all buildings to be demolished and leveled to the ground. For 15 days, a blood-soaked orgy of slaughter continued in the city. Finally, the entire population of Nishapur was erased from the face of existence. Such was the fury and rage that the Mongols did not even spare the city's dogs and cats. Tului Khan truly devastated Nishapur so completely that the land was left fit for nothing but plowing and the sowing of grain. The governor of Nishapur, Mujir al-Malik, went into hiding somewhere after the city fell, but the Mongols were beasts who could scent their prey. At last he was captured and put to death. The number of martyrs in Nishapur is said to have exceeded 1.5 million. Merchants from various cities of the east were also present in Nishapur. After a siege lasting 24 days, the city was conquered, its population slaughtered, and the city burned and demolished so completely that it seemed as if no settlement had ever existed there at all. Nishapur was erased. Neither the city remained nor its people. The earth had seen so much blood that even silence began to feel terrifying. But Mongol swords were not yet satisfied. Merv, the city of knowledge, wealth, and grandeur, was now waiting for its turn. Behind its gates stood women, children, the elderly, and inexperienced youths, knowing full well that this was not a battle for victory, but for martyrdom. Tului Khan's army was approaching, and wherever it arrived, history came to a halt. An invitation to the next chapter, in the next part. How were the gates of Merv broken? How did the greatest massacre unfold? And how did a magnificent city turn to dust within a matter of days? Next part, the fall of Merv.